I'm starting a run of Pokemon SoulSilver where 20% of the Pokemon are shiny due to the cute charm glitch. Last time, you guys saw as I went to a retro gaming convention and bought an old copy of Pokemon SoulSilver. I was inspired by this to start a run where all the Pokemon that I use are shiny. This time, I'm going to explain a bit how the cute charm shiny glitch works, show the process of resetting my game to set it up, and then set off on my adventure. Part 1. What is the cute charm glitch? The cute charm glitch has been extensively covered in other videos already, so I'm only going to do a pretty basic summary here. I'll put a link in the description in case you want to see the exact mechanics. Now, as a bit of background, every wild Pokemon has a unique Pokemon ID number, or PID, which is hidden from the player. This sometimes affects another factor, which is whether that Pokemon is shiny. You see, every time you start a new game, your character also has a certain individual trainer's shiny ID assigned to you, sometimes known as a secret ID because you can't see it. Now, if your individual trainer's shiny value matches the PID of the wild Pokemon, that Pokemon will be shiny. In Cute Charm's case, if your lead Pokemon has the Cute Charm ability, it causes you to have a 66.6% chance of finding the opposite gender wild Pokemon. Now, for the game to accomplish Cute Charm's gender effect mechanically, the game actually forces a certain PID on the wild Pokemon 66% of the time to ensure that that Pokemon has the opposite gender of your lead Pokemon. Since Cute Charm forces the wild Pokemon to have only a limited set of PIDs, if you have the right trainer ID, you can make Cute Charm influence Pokemon shiny up to 20% of the time. The next question, of course, is how can you get such a magical trainer ID? Now, to get the right trainer ID, you have to plug in some numbers to some pretty complicated calculators, depending on what time your DS is set at, and then once you're done, you basically have to reset your DS's game clock and start your game at the exact time demanded by these calculators. Your timing can only be off by a few milliseconds, so it's pretty strict, and you might have to restart many times. But the cool thing is, you don't need any third-party tools to do this, just your own reflexes. Now, there's some important limitations of this trick. Firstly, your Cute Charm lead must be in the front of your party at all times to find shiny Pokemon. Now, this seems like a pretty big limitation, but you can also KO it and leave it in the first position and it will still count. Secondly, only wild encounterable Pokemon can be shiny, so Pokemon that are given to you in events, like starters or egg Pokemon, will unfortunately have normal odds. 3. Only gendered Pokemon can be shiny. That means no Magnemites, no Voltorbs, etc. Unfortunately, this also rules out most legendaries since they are genderless. But what about Latios and Latias? Unfortunately, Pokemon that have a fixed gender ratio like Tauros, Miltank, Latios, or Latias can't be shiny. However, this actually means that Heatran can be, because its gender ratio isn't fixed. So now you have the why and the how. How can we get the ball rolling? Well, the first issue is we need a Pokemon that actually has Cute Charm. Either we can catch one in SoulSilver version, or we can trade it from another game. Now, if we don't trade it from another game, the soonest you can get a Cute Charm Pokemon is actually a Clefairy, which you can get in the Safari Zone in Cyanwood City. That is like 60% after the start of the game, which is a really long time just to wait to confirm if the glitch is even working. So probably we should take the easier route, which is to trade. At first, I was just going to find my old diamond version to get a Clefable over, but after searching for about 2 hours, I remembered that, conveniently, I had lost my diamond, Alpha and Sapphire, and a lot of other games on a train ride overseas about 10 years ago. Oops. So, I had no choice but to buy another version on eBay. I figured I might as well pick up Platinum version, because the Cute Charm glitch can be used there, and I'd never actually played Platinum before. A cool $120 later, I had my copy of Platinum. This copy of Platinum luckily had a save file that put me right before the first time we enter Mount Coronet, where you can sometimes find Cleffa and Clefairy, although they're pretty rare at a 5% spawn rate. I was able to just barely get into one side of Mount Coronet, and I was confined to a very small area, but it was enough. Just by being able to walk around in here, after a bit of searching, I was able to find a male wild Cleffa. We named him Stud, because he's going to attract all the shiny ladies. Now began the extremely long process of repeatedly resetting to get the right trainer ID. As I mentioned before, in order for the Q-Charm Shiny glitch to work, you have to set your DS clock to a specific time and then start your game at exactly the right moment demanded by the Eon Timer tool, which you see here. After you start the game, you would have to check your trainer ID to see if it matches the one requested by the calculator, and if it didn't, then you'd have to reset and try again. Now, this is footage from another YouTuber, because I didn't record this part, but it just gives you an idea of just how long this process is. I started a game and came up short, and the same thing happened a second time, and then a third, and then a fourth. Finally, on the 5th try, success, we got the right matching trainer ID. It matches the one that the generator told me that I would need. But we would have to test it with a Q-Charm Pokemon to make sure it actually works. Now, you can't trade right at the start of the game, so I had to play through it for a little bit. We got a starter Totodile. I nicknamed him Ototo, which kind of is Totodile backwards, and is also Japanese for little brother. The start of HeartGold SoulSilver does give you the rather unfortunate point of starting off without any running shoes for the first 20 minutes or so. Before we can trade for any Pokemon, we have to go to Mr. Pokemon's house to get a mystery egg or something. After slogging for what feels like a really long time to get to the first city, we're finally blessed with a pair of running shoes, which means we can go a little bit faster. We hoof it over to Mr. Pokemon's house where we find Professor Oak, and more importantly, unlock the ability to start trading Pokemon. We rush over right away to the Pokemon Center. I catch a throwaway Pidgey and I exchange it for Stud. And now I am super nervous because we can finally find out whether or not our trainer ID will actually work. If it doesn't, the last hour and a half that I've been playing this game will be for naught, and I'll have to start over with another save file. So we start finding some wild Pokemon. The first subject appears. It's female, but it's not shiny. So does the second one. It's also not shiny. And the same for the third, the fourth, the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th. I am really sweating bullets now. Maybe my calculations were off, but finally, on the 8th try, it's a success. We've successfully done the Q-Charm glitch. So I catch Weedle with a Premier Ball to mark the occasion, and for reasons I'm not entirely sure of, name her Heedless. Maybe because I was listening to the soundtrack of Hunchback of Notre Dame, and at one point he sang the word heedless. After hours and hours of setup and buying other games, we finally have the save file that we need. I'm so excited to start this SoulSilver run with you guys, and I hope you'll tune back next time to see what goes on. Next time, setting up the rules of the semi-Nuzlocke that I'm going to be doing, and we add more shiny team members to our party. Also, we face off against Faulkner, the first test for our team.